Today's the big one. I'm finally pouring the river at Molesworth Vale. Will it set crystal clear or turn into a cloudy disaster? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to Molesworth Vale. Today I'm going to be tackling one of the most exciting and somewhat nerve-wracking parts of the layout so far, pouring the river. I'll show you the whole process from preparing the riverbed and adding reeds along the banks, to mixing and tinting the water, and finally the big pour. It's a major moment for Molesworth Vale, and of course there's always a risk that something could go horribly wrong. In the dim and distant past, I'd already spent some time setting up the main riverbed with various little boulders and rocks. But of course, over time, some of those became loose. So the first thing needed to be done was to quickly just tidy up some of those loose rocks. Next, I whipped up a little batch of water and PVA mix, nice and weak, so it would flow into the gaps between the Woodland Scenic's talus that I've been using as the boulders, just to make sure that everything is very firmly stuck and nothing floats up when I actually come to pour the water. While this was drying, I quickly created some tufts of reeds by using, again, Woodland Scenic's field grass, just dabbed into a line of PVA on some greaseproof paper. They were then trimmed down to be roughly the size I wanted. Next, took a little bit of brown paint and just dabbed the top of the reeds to give the heads of the bulrushes and to give it the look that I was going for. And then it was time to take them and place them on the layout. Trying to get those reeds and bushes onto the layout was actually not as simple as I'd expected. The talus that I'd got in place often made it difficult for things to stay where I needed them to, so I had to break away some of those little pieces. Also, you can't really press them down to wedge them into where you want to go to, because then you'll spoil the whole effect of the grass. But eventually, once I got them where I wanted, one by one, simply took them out, added some extra PVA, squished them back into place with my tweezers, and everything worked great. So I'm opting to use magic water. This is a product that I picked up quite a few years ago now, so I'm a little bit nervous to see how well it works after all this time. It's your typical two-part product, two of the big bottle, one of the smaller bottle. Just very carefully mix those together and eradicate as many bubbles as you possibly can. I'm also using some Woodland Scenic's water tints. I've gone for olive drab. I did a number of test pours, not of actual magic water, but of a similar two-part epoxy product, just to get the idea of how this would look when it was set. So fingers crossed I picked the right amount of colouring. Definitely err on the side of caution with this. There are always going to be ways to make your water deeper, darker, but lightening it after the fact is just not going to happen. And so we get to the main event. Finally just diving in there, Starting to pour that resin onto the layout. Looking back on it now, I scared myself a lot. I should have found a better way to pour that water between the various bridges. That could have gone horribly wrong really, really quickly. But fortunately, not only did I mix the right amount of water, almost to the milliliter, which is pure luck, I didn't have any disastrous spills. I guess it's sufficiently thick and gooey that it doesn't overflow too much. There were a couple of places where I did get a little bit overzealous, but thankfully, with the use of a coffee stirrer, a couple of toothpicks, you can generally tweak it to where you need it to be. At that point, giving it a good going over with some deep exhales will really help pop those bubbles that do remain. They're going to be there no matter what you do. But they are actually surprisingly easily dealt with. So my first thought is, which way is the river flowing? Is it going east to west? Or is it going west to east? So still water to rapids, or vice versa? That's going to have a big impact on how I address things going forward. Which way should ripples be flowing? Yeah, I'd actually really like to get some opinions. Should it be flowing towards the operator in the center of the room, or should it be cascading away from them? I honestly don't know. Right then, so before I get this all covered up so that we get no dust or anything else landing on the water that we've just poured, or heaven forbid some kind of fly getting itself stuck in there, let's just see how the reflections are working. All in all, looking pretty good. Some nice reflections from under the bridges. Hopefully I'll be able to catch some reflections of trains as they cross. There's a couple of little spots. There's the backdrop that needs to be fixed, where I was very, very careless earlier on. Also, just a few little spots where we need to tweak and encourage the water to really soak itself into the bushes and things that I've created. But all in all, so far, it could be worse. Let's give it a few days and see what happens. All right, it's the moment of truth. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. Looks pretty good. The water has soaked into some of the bushes and up onto the rocks a little bit, but I can probably find a way to disguise that a little. There are some really great reflections already, and everything is set nice and solid. There is one little boulder at the back that has floated to the surface that I'll need to figure out. So that's about it for this update. Join me again soon for part 2, where I will be adding surface texture to the water, some rapids, fixing some of the issues that have surfaced during the pour itself, pardon the pun, finishing off the bridge, adding a bunch of trees, and just generally completing the scene. Thanks for watching.